they they have this compulsion about thinning the herd. And I'm thinking, well, there's 1.6 billion in China and 2 billion in India, and I'm thinking, well, they don't really have a plan. But at the same time, you have the church that's encouraging to populate the planet in the name of Jesus and God. And, they need to get together and kind of like sort things out here because, one is going in one direction. They want 500 million. That's the number that I've heard of the population. And the Roman Catholic Church, obviously, they want trillions of people so they can have a tremendous faith base.
Well, that's something interesting. In the name of God here, William, where do you put religion in the mix?
In the name of God, where I put religion, if you want to schedule an hour to talk about that in a serious way, I'd love to do it. But I think it's unfair to your listeners to try to answer that in one sentence. The question about overpopulation, I'd like to say something to.
Sure.
John D. Rockefeller, back at the beginning of the 50s, John D. Rockefeller III, the heir of the Standard Oil fortune, created something called the Population Council. And they financed every way, shape, and form of devices for birth control, from intrauterine devices. When the pill was discovered, it wasn't through direct Rockefeller research, but they fully got behind it and supported it as a way to reduce population. And they were behind a classified study that Henry Kissinger, their man in the Nixon administration, was commissioned to carry out as head of the National Security Council for President Nixon in the early 70s, called the National Security Strategy Memorandum 200, NSSM 200, where population control was made for the first time in history an active instrument of U.S. foreign policy. If a nation needing U.S. aid, AID, State Department aid for food, for whatever, did not have a population control program in place to reduce population, birth control programs, forced sterilization, what will you, then it would not get U.S. aid. And that was declassified by an FOIA action by a Catholic lay organization back in 1991 and came to light as what that was. But this elite around Rockefeller has had birth control, population reduction, and so forth, to the point it's been so successful that most of Western Europe is facing negative population growth. The United States, perhaps a few years later, because of a huge influx of immigration from Latin and South America over the past 30 years, and other places as well. But the trend is toward a population, negative demographic catastrophe rather than overpopulation. Even in Africa, where the birth rate has fallen almost down to net reproduction or zero growth rate, it's 2.6 per childbearing woman rather than 2.1 or so that's considered zero reproduction. So there is no danger of us overpopulating this planet, and in fact, there's every danger of the opposite. And if that were to take place, we will have an ecological catastrophe that no one can imagine. We simply need to manage our human and our natural resources, nature, in a way that I keep coming back to this, in the way that God intended. Let's be natural and let's be human with our resources, and not try to play God with all these things and artificially design food or clone sheeps like Dolly, or try to clone human beings in the laboratory. This isn't what we're about. We're about something far more wonderful and exciting.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, William. Eventually, with all this manipulation of Mother Nature, it's going to come back and backfire in a big, big way.
Fortunately, nature is a little bit more powerful than the manipulations of mere men, even if their name is Rockefeller.
It tends to correct itself, doesn't it?